150 million years ago, survival was not a gift. It was a victory that had to be earned in blood. Welcome to the Morrison Formation. This was a land of brutal extremes, where scorching droughts gave way to biblical floods. This chaos was the crucible of legends. It raised the sauropod giants, living mountains of flesh and bone, and it armed the ruthless Allosaurus to hunt them down from the desperate duel to the tragic wall of bones. Only the strongest endured. Welcome to the arena.
In the late Jurassic, 150 million years ago, survival was a currency paid in blood. The air is dry, choked with volcanic dust. Heat ripples across a cracked floodplain, and in the haze, two fighters emerge. The hunter, Allosaurus, a predator built for ambition, not mercy. Fast, relentless, carved from hunger itself. And across from it, the fortress, Stegosaurus, a 4-ton wall of plates and iron spikes, standing defiant against the chaos of its world. These two titans do not clash by accident. Here, in the Morrison Formation, every encounter is a test. Every breath is borrowed. Every second is earned. The hunter circles, measuring distance, calculating the arc of its strike. Its skull, unlike the crushing jaws of later tyrants, works like a hatchet, built to chop, not crush. The fortress pivots, reading the tension in the dust. Its plates flare with color, a silent warning. But its true weapon waits behind it. The Thagomizer. 4 spikes, each as long as a grown man's forearm. A single swing can rewrite the story of a hunt. The Allosaurus lunges. The ground explodes in a burst of dust. Claws rake against armor. The Stegosaurus responds with a lightning-fast swing, more precise than massive creatures are ever expected to be. Predator and prey are roles that shift with every breath. Here, the line between them is thin, fragile, easily broken. Their duel will leave scars. Some will fossilize. Some will be found millions of years later. Silent proof that this arena demanded excellence, or it delivered extinction. But this battle is only the prologue. The Morrison is not defined by its titans alone. It is defined by the land that forged them. This is the Morrison Formation. Not a single place, but a vast stretch of time, spanning 10 million years of the late Jurassic. Its battlegrounds stretch from Montana to New Mexico, across what would one day become the American West. Long before highways and canyon overlooks, before iron rails carved across deserts, this land was already a world of extremes. A semi-arid basin, A continental stage carved by ancient rivers. A patchwork of floodplains, forests, and bone-white droughts. To its earliest discoverers, 19th century bone hunters, it was a land filled with myths. They came searching for gold, but found something far more valuable: the remains of giants. Their pickaxes struck stone, revealing vertebrae the size of boulders, necks longer than trucks, legs like columns, creatures so large they seemed impossible. They had not discovered monsters, they had uncovered a lost ecosystem, an arena built on scale, scarcity, and survival. At the heart of this land were the rivers. They were lifelines, wide, muddy highways that fed forests of conifers, towering tree ferns, and sprawling fields of ginkgos. But these rivers could also turn violent. With the wet season came catastrophic floods, walls of water that ripped across the basin, collecting everything in their path. Skeletons of hunters, bones of giants, families of creatures caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. All of them swept toward a final resting place. A place we would one day call the Wall of Bones. But before fossils are made, life must struggle. And nowhere was that struggle more brutal than in the Morrison's ancient climate. This was no paradise. The Morrison lived and breathed in extremes. For half the year, the land baked under a relentless sun. Floodplains cracked, waterholes shrank. Dust storms swept across the basin like living things. Predators and prey were forced into shrinking pockets of mud, uneasy truces forming in the last pools of water. A Stegosaurus drinks beside an Allosaurus, each watching the other with a silent, trembling suspicion. They are too exhausted to fight, too thirsty to walk away. In this season, Drought is the first predator. Its weapon is attrition, slow, patient, suffocating. It kills not by violence, but by wearing down the will to survive. And then the sky breaks. Dark, towering storm clouds roll in with the violence the dry land has forgotten. A single raindrop strikes the earth like an explosion. Then another and another. The wet season arrives not as rain, but as a flood. Rivers awaken in seconds, roaring through canyons and ripping ancient trees from their roots. The earth trembles under the force of water. Creatures scramble to escape, but many will not. The floods carve scars across the land, deep cuts that will one day become valleys, canyons, and desert ridges. To the giants of the Morrison, this cycle is everything. It dictates where they feed, where they migrate, and where they risk their young. Because in the arena, the fight to survive begins long before adulthood. Every giant begins life as a fragile egg. The sauropods, Diplodocus, Apatosaurus, Brachiosaurus, were masters of the quantity strategy. Rather than guarding a single nest, they traveled in vast herds to ancient floodplains where they laid hundreds of eggs at a time. They buried them in sand and vegetation, trusting heat, not parents, to bring them to life. But this miracle of birth is also an invitation, because every egg laid is a signal, a beacon broadcasting opportunity to every predator in the arena. Ornitholestes, small, swift, needle-toothed hunters, prowl the nesting grounds. Even the earliest mammals join the feast, slipping between the shadows to steal what they can. When the hatchlings emerge, they are alone. No parent waits to protect them. Their only weapon is growth. They must grow faster than the world can kill them. For every 100 born, only a handful will see adulthood. Only 1 or 2 might one day stretch their necks above the canopy, towering over the landscape like living mountains. It is a brutal strategy, but in this world of drought, flood, and endless predators, brutality is not cruelty, it is necessity. And it is this relentless pressure, this constant push